Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Thanks. I was 19 when this happened, still living in my hometown of Larkspur, Ohio, a place most people only knew because of the highway exit with the gas stations and the McDonald's that never closed. I wasn't in college, at least not yet. After high school, I took a year off because my family couldn't afford tuition right away, and honestly, I didn't know what I wanted to do. That's how I ended up at McDonald's working nights. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid my car insurance and gave me just enough to throw some cash to my mom for rent. The night shift was strange, the kind of strange you only understand if you've worked one. The fluorescent lights buzzing while the rest of the world slept, drunk customers at 2 a.m., truckers drifting in for coffee, the occasional teenager daring each other to loiter in the parking lot until the manager chased them off. My crew was small. Nights usually had 3 of us. Me on counter and lobby, Kara on drive-thru, and Eric on grill. Eric was 25 and constantly smelled like weed, even though he swore he never lit up before work. Kara was 21, sarcastic as hell, always chewing gum like her jaw was on a timer. And then there was our manager, Mr. Landry, who stayed until midnight most nights before leaving us to hold down the fort. That's when the shifts got quiet. That's when things felt different. McDonald's had been in Larkspur forever. The building itself was old, renovated in the mid-2000s, but you could still tell by the weird back hallways and storage rooms that it had been built in the 70s. The basement creeped me out the most. It wasn't really a basement in the normal sense. It was more like a half-buried storage floor you could only reach from a set of steel stairs behind the kitchen. Hardly anyone went down there except for deliveries or when we ran out of stock upstairs. The older employees used to joke about the basement guy, some story about a homeless man living down there years ago until the police dragged him out. I always thought it was just one of those workplace legends. Every job has them. But that winter, right before Christmas, it didn't feel like a joke anymore. It was a Wednesday night, quiet. Snow was falling outside, soft and steady, making the highway almost silent. No trucks, no late-night rush. Just the hum of the Friars and Kara humming off-key to whatever song was stuck in her head. Around 1:30 a.m., I was out in the lobby wiping down tables when I noticed something strange. The far corner by the play area had one of the chairs pulled out just slightly, like someone had been sitting there. We hadn't had a customer in over an hour. "Hey, Kara," I called toward the front. "Did we have anyone in the lobby after one?" She leaned out of the drive-thru window, gum cracking. "Nah, why?" I pointed to the chair. "Looks like somebody was sitting there." She shrugged. "Maybe you forgot to push it in earlier." Maybe. But I was meticulous about the lobby. It bugged me. I pushed the chair back under the table and shook it off. 10 minutes later, when I went back to refill the napkin dispensers, the chair was pulled out again. This time I felt my stomach drop. I went back behind the counter. "Eric," I said. He was leaning against the grill, scrolling on his phone. "You didn't come out to the lobby, did you?" He glanced up. "Nope. Why?" "That chair in the play area keeps moving." Kara laughed. "Haunted McDonald's. Love it. I'm serious." Eric smirked. "Dude, relax." "Probably a draft. Or maybe Kara's messing with you." "Wasn't me," Kara said, still chewing her gum. But she looked at me differently then, like maybe she believed I wasn't joking. Around 2 a.m., we got slammed by a random wave of drunk college kids. While Kara handled the drive-thru, I manned the counter, and Eric threw together McChickens like his life depended on it. It took about half an hour to clear them all out. By the time the restaurant was empty again, I noticed the lobby lights flicker, just for a second. When I went back to check the play area, the same chair was pulled out. But now there were greasy fingerprints on the table. I froze. We sanitized that table earlier. I remembered wiping it myself, and none of the drunk kids had sat there. They all stayed near the front counter, laughing too loudly to even notice the play area. "Kara," I whispered, waving her over. She sighed, came out, and saw what I was pointing at. Okay, that's creepy. Eric came too, wiping his hands on his apron. What the hell? That's when Kara bent down, squinting under the table. She jerked back, eyes wide. What? I asked. There's something under there, she said, voice shaking a little. Eric crouched down, fearless. Relax, it's He stopped mid-sentence, stood up fast. His face had gone pale. Somebody's under there. Before I could react, the man slid out from under the table. He was older, 60s maybe, wearing a McDonald's uniform shirt that didn't fit right. The logo was faded like it had been washed 100 times. His hair was gray and greasy, his beard patchy. He didn't say a word, just crawled out and stood up slowly like he wasn't ashamed, like he belonged there. Sir, you can't be here, Kara said, backing up. The lobby's closed. The man stared at us, then at the bag of food on the counter, then back at us again. His eyes were bloodshot, sunken. I swallowed hard. Do you work here? He didn't answer, just smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile, it was the kind that made my stomach twist. Eric stepped forward, trying to act tough. You need to leave, man. Right now, that's when the guy bolted. Not out the front doors, but toward the back hallway. The one that led to the basement stairs. What the hell? Kara shouted. Should we call the cops? I asked, my heart racing. Eric already had his phone out. Yeah, hell yeah. While he dialed, I ran to the back and checked the hallway. The basement door was cracked open, a faint light glowed from down below. I swear I heard movement. Kara joined me, her voice low. Don't go down there. I'm not. My hands were shaking. Eric came back. Cops are on their way. So we waited, all three of us standing in the kitchen watching that open basement door like it was going to breathe. It took 15 minutes for the police to show up, though it felt like hours. When they arrived, 2 officers, we explained everything quickly. They drew flashlights and headed down into the basement. We waited upstairs, Kara pacing, Eric trying to act calm but chewing his nails like crazy. After about 10 minutes, the officers came back up, dragging the man in handcuffs. I recognized him instantly. Same guy, same faded uniform. His eyes darted between us, still smiling faintly like he knew something we didn't. Found him living down there, one officer said. Looks like he made a nest in one of the storage rooms. You kids are lucky they took him outside, shoved him into the back of the cruiser. The next day, Mr. Landry called me and Kara in early before our shift. He looked shaken, pale. They went through the basement after last night, he said. Found a mattress, food wrappers, empty bottles, but also, he hesitated. They found pictures, Polaroids, of the lobby, of employees, of customers. Kara's hand flew to her mouth. Some of them were of you, Mr. Landry said, looking at me. His voice cracked. Sitting at the counter, cleaning the lobby. Even walking to your car, I felt sick. How long was he down there? Kara asked. They think at least a week, maybe longer. He must have grabbed an old uniform from storage to blend in. McDonald's closed for 2 days for inspection. Word spread fast in town. Everyone joked about the basement man, but for me it wasn't funny. Every time I walked to my car at night, I felt eyes on me. I kept thinking about the smile he gave me, like it wasn't over, like maybe in some way he'd always be watching. I never thought much about working late shifts at McDonald's. At 16, it wasn't a career, just a means to keep some cash in my pocket while I balanced community college classes and a half-hearted social life. I lived in Brookhaven, a medium-sized town in Pennsylvania, where the most exciting thing was the Walmart that stayed open 24 hours. The McDonald's I worked at was tucked just off Route 322, with its golden arches glowing all night long like a beacon for truckers, night owls, and people who didn't have anywhere better to be. When I first got the job, my mom warned me, "Don't take those late shifts, Riley. Night brings weird people out. I don't want you dealing with drunks and creeps." But I didn't listen. The night shifts paid better, and honestly, I liked the quiet. Fewer customers meant I could slip into autopilot, wipe tables, restock the napkins, smile at whoever came in, and then zone out until closing tasks. My title was Customer Care Assistant, which basically meant I wasn't strictly on register duty. Some nights I was cleaning the lobby, sometimes I helped run orders, and when things got slow, I'd mop floors or scrub down the ketchup dispensers. I wasn't glamorous by any means. Our uniform was dreadful. A navy skirt just past the knee, stiff striped blouse buttoned to the top, and a yellow scarf tied neatly around my neck. It made me feel like an old-fashioned flight attendant, but after a while I stopped noticing. I wasn't there to impress anyone. At first I didn't mind the job. There was a comfort to the routine, to knowing the same truck drivers would show up around midnight, the same college kids would drag themselves in for McFlurries after parties, and the same elderly man named Mr. Donahue would shuffle in every Thursday morning for oatmeal and black coffee. I liked chatting with people, liked the tiny connections that made the shift less lonely. But then he started coming in. The first time I saw him, it was a rainy Tuesday night in October. The restaurant was nearly empty. Just me, Mark on the grill, and a security guard dozing by the door. Around 11, the man walked in. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sandy blonde hair that was thinning at the top. He looked to be in his late 40s, maybe early 50s. His face wasn't old exactly, but weathered, like someone who'd spent decades outdoors. His eyes were a pale blue, piercing in a way that made me shiver without knowing why. He approached my register, jaw clenched, expression unreadable. I plastered on the smile I always used. "Hi there, welcome to McDonald's. How's your night going?" His gaze flicked to my name tag. "Could be better." His voice was low, gravelly, almost curt. I kept smiling. "Well, maybe some coffee will help. What can I get for you?" He ordered a black coffee and a sausage McMuffin. Pretty standard. I handed it to him, and he lingered just long enough to say, "Nice to see someone smiling." "Everyone else looks miserable," I gave a polite laugh. "Well, it's not the most exciting job, but I try." He nodded once, gave me a small smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, and walked off to sit at a corner booth, the one directly across from the counter. At first, I didn't think much of it. Just another lonely customer. But then he came back. Every Tuesday. Same time, same order. Always sitting at the same booth with the perfect view of my register. If I wasn't the one on till, he'd wait, literally step aside and let other customers go ahead, until I was free. The first few weeks, I figured he just liked consistency. Maybe he lived nearby, maybe he liked the coffee. But then he started talking more. "You're always smiling," he said one night while I rang him up. I shrugged. Part of the job. Not everyone manages it. You actually seem like you enjoy being here. His eyes flicked toward my coworkers who were dragging themselves through the shift. "I don't hate it," I said lightly. "Keeps me busy." He gave me that same faint smile again. That's refreshing. Still, it didn't set off alarms. Not yet. It changed when I switched shifts. I'd been working mostly Tuesdays, but my class schedule shifted and I picked up Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays instead. That first week I noticed him. He came in on Tuesday like usual, sat at his booth, waited, and then left without ordering. The very next night, though, there he was at my register, smiling faintly. "Didn't see you yesterday," he said casually. "Oh, yeah, changed my shifts for school, shame," he replied. "I look forward to our chats." There was something in the way he said it that made my stomach tighten. From then on, he started coming in every night I worked. Always my register, always my section if I was cleaning. If I was restocking the sauces, he'd move to the booth closest to me and watch. At first, I tried to tell myself he was just lonely, maybe divorced, maybe craving attention. But then one night, he waved me over while I was on break. "Come sit for a bit," he said, gesturing at the booth. I hesitated. My manager, Linda, didn't mind if we talked to customers on break, so I sat down. "Rough week," he sighed, stirring his coffee. "Going through a divorce? She's trying to take everything, the house, my son. It's not fair." I nodded politely. I'm sorry to hear that. He leaned closer. I've done things I regret. My son doesn't talk to me anymore, not after what I did. Can't blame him, I froze. What happened? His voice was flat, emotionless. I hit him. Hit my wife, too. Not that she didn't deserve it, I stiffened, throat dry. You ever feel like no matter what you do, people turn against you? He asked. I forced a nervous laugh. Life's complicated. Yeah, he said, staring at me. Complicated. I excused myself as quickly as I could. When I went back to wiping down the sauce dispensers, I felt his eyes on me. As I crouched to wrestle with the ketchup bag, I glanced up. He was watching me, staring and smiling, the kind of smile that made my skin crawl. That was the night the questions started. He walked up as I cleaned. Can I ask you something personal? I hesitated. Depends. Are you a virgin? I froze, stomach twisting. I'm not answering that. What size are your breasts? I felt heat crawl up my neck. I have a boyfriend. His smile didn't falter. Do you love him? Yes, I snapped. Would you leave him for me? My boyfriend is behind the counter, I said through gritted teeth, lowering my voice. And I don't think he'd be happy with this conversation. His face darkened. Then just like that, he smiled again. Well, make sure he treats you right. You're a lovely girl, and he walked out. I went to the back room and shook until my break was over. The next morning, I woke to a WhatsApp message, then a Facebook friend request, then an Instagram follow, all from him. Saw your profile pic. You're even more beautiful outside work. Loved watching you bent over fixing the sauce. Wish I could have helped, my blood ran cold. I hadn't given him my number. I hadn't told him my last name. I blocked him on everything. But then came new accounts. Months later. Merry Christmas. Hope you're doing well. I miss our chats. Another time. Saw you at Walmart last week. You looked cute in that sweater. I never responded. I moved away by spring, transferring to a campus job. But even now, years later, sometimes I lie awake wondering, what if I hadn't switched shifts? What if I hadn't blocked him? What if he had followed me home that night? I don't work at McDonald's anymore. I don't even eat there, and I never will again. I never used to be scared of working late. I'd been in fast food long enough to know how to handle drunks, junkies, and the occasional creep. McDonald's, especially in rough areas, has its fair share of them. But that night was different. That night I learned that some people don't just want to mess with you, they want to own you. I worked at a McDonald's in a part of town most people avoided after dark. Not the worst area, but bad enough. The kind of place where people linger too long in the car park, where arguments spill into the restaurant, and where cops swing by more often than customers would like to admit. I wasn't new to this job. I'd been here long enough to know how to defuse drunks, shut down weirdos, and ignore the comments men felt entitled to throw my way just because I worked a window. Some nights were worse than others, but I could handle myself. I always could. That's what I thought anyway. It was a Friday night, which meant chaos. Drunken clubbers at the front counter, impatient drivers piling up at the drive-thru, and a kitchen crew already sweating from the dinner rush. I was stationed at the drive-thru collection window, handing out bags of food while trying not to lose my patience. It started off as just another creep. A car pulled up, black, older model, a little beat up. Inside was a guy, mid-40s, dark stubble on his jaw, hood up despite the warm night. He looked at me the way some men do when they think you're just another thing they can have. He leaned on his steering wheel, grinning. Damn, you got some beautiful lips, sweetheart. I felt my stomach tighten. Not the worst thing I'd been called, but something about the way he said it made my skin crawl. I ignored him, handed over his bag, and kept my voice neutral. Here you go. Have a good night. He didn't take the food, just kept staring. You should meet me out back, he said. Put those lips to good use. I felt my breath hitch, bold, disgusting, but I knew better than to react. The second they see you uncomfortable, it gets worse. Move along, I said, forcing a polite smile. You're holding up the queue. He chuckled, took his bag, and finally drove off. I should have felt relieved. Instead, my hands were shaking. I told myself it was over. It wasn't. 5 minutes later, he came back. Same car, same stare. This time, his grin was wider. You miss me? I kept my face blank. Ignore him. Hand the bag. Move on. He leaned closer. You're really something, you know that? That hair, that skin. Bet you taste real sweet. I felt bile rise in my throat. Sir, I need you to leave. Or what? His voice was soft, like he already knew I couldn't do anything. Come on, just a little fun. I could make you feel real good. My fingers twitched toward the window lock, but he took his food and drove off again, slowly, as if savoring my reaction. I didn't say anything at first, just turned to my manager, Jake, and kept my voice even. There's a guy coming around the drive-thru making me uncomfortable. Can I switch stations? Jake glanced at me, concerned. What happened? Just some creep. Keeps coming back. Jake didn't hesitate. Switch with Ryan. You take the front. I nodded, grateful. Maybe that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Ryan took my spot. I moved to the front counter, focusing on orders, trying to push the encounter from my mind. Then Ryan walked up to me, pale. That guy, he said. The one you told me about. I stiffened. What about him? He just asked where you went. Wanted to know your name, if I had your number. What time you finished. My stomach dropped. You didn't tell him, did you? Ryan hesitated. I only told him you moved inside before I realized he was a freak. A chill ran through me. He wasn't just playing games, he was looking for me. And then he walked in. The moment he stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. He made a beeline for my till, ignoring the other customers. His eyes locked onto mine, gleaming. There you are, he murmured. Was wondering where my girl ran off to. I tried to stay calm, but my hands were shaking. Customers were watching. Staff were watching. He didn't care. You're even prettier up close, he said. Bet you'd feel real nice if I got my hands on you. I took a step back. Sir, you need to leave. He smiled, didn't move. I don't think so, he said. I think I'll stay right here. I could feel my pulse hammering. Jake, I called, voice shaking. Jake was already on his way. You need to leave, Jake said, stepping between us. The guy's face darkened, his grin vanished. Who the hell are you? He spat. The manager, Jake said firmly. Leave. Now and then he moved. He lunged straight for me. I barely had time to react before he jumped the counter, arms reaching. I scrambled back, heart pounding, as Jake and two others tackled him midair, screaming, thrashing, nails clawing. He was wild, fighting them off like an animal. Get off me! She's mine, you hear me? Mine! His nails scraped Jake's arm, drawing blood. A tray crashed to the floor. Customers were yelling. Someone was on their phone. And then, the panic button. A shrill alarm filled the store, direct to the police. The struggle lasted minutes, felt like hours. Then sirens, blue lights, the door bursting open, cops. They swarmed him, pinned him down, cuffed him. But even as they dragged him out, he was still staring at me. You think this is over? He growled. I'll wait for you. Every day. You belong to me. Then he was gone. The cops searched him outside. He had knives, lots of them, pocket knives, army knives, a kitchen knife tucked into his waistband. He'd been waiting, planning, if he'd gotten over that counter. I felt sick. My manager called me a taxi home. I quit 2 weeks later. I never saw him again, never saw his car, never heard his name. Maybe he's locked up. Maybe he's still out there. Maybe he's just waiting for another girl at another drive-through window. For someone else who doesn't realize how fast things can turn deadly. I always thought I could handle myself. Now I don't take the risk. I never thought my first job after high school would end up haunting me for the rest of my life. When you grow up in a small Midwest town, your options aren't endless. Mine sure weren't. My name's Daniel Harker. I had just graduated in the summer of 2024 from Ashwood High. A school most people in our town just tolerated until they could get out. Some classmates left for universities across the country, some went into trades, and a lot of people just stayed. I didn't get a scholarship, and I couldn't exactly move away. My mom had been diagnosed with lupus the year before, and my dad was never around. Bills stacked up faster than we could pay them, so instead of heading off to college in some big city, I enrolled at Ashwood Community College. And to pay tuition and keep the lights on at home, I picked up a part-time night shift at Miller's Burgers, a McDonald's knockoff that had been in Ashwood forever, tucked at the corner of Pine Street Plaza, which itself was falling apart. The plaza used to hold a Kmart, a Blockbuster, a hardware store, all long gone. Now it was a mix of empty storefronts, a laundromat that smelled like mildew, a payday loan place, and Miller's. The sign buzzed and flickered at night, neon red half burned out so it just read, Mill R's. I wasn't proud of the job. I hated the smell of grease clinging to my clothes, the sticky tile floors that never seemed clean no matter how much you mopped, and the broken freezer that management never fixed. But it was a paycheck, and at 18, a paycheck meant survival. Most nights it was just two of us, me out front running register, wiping down tables and stocking, and the closing cook, a guy named Luis Ramirez. Luis was 24, wiry, tattooed forearms, always smelled faintly of weed but could work a grill like nobody's business. He'd play old school rap from his phone while flipping patties, and I actually liked working with him. He made the dead hours go faster. Except Luis didn't always stay. If his girlfriend showed up to pick him up early, he'd ditch half an hour before closing, tossing me the responsibility of wiping down the kitchen, locking up, and setting alarms. I never complained. It wasn't worth the fight. My only saving grace was Erin, my girlfriend. She knew how much I hated working nights, so she'd sometimes swing by after her own shift at the gas station ended. We'd sit in the back booth eating leftover fries, talking about bills, school, or just dumb TikTok videos. Her presence made the night bearable. But Ashwood had its stories about Miller's. Older folks whispered that the building used to be an insurance office back in the late 80s. Supposedly 3 employees jumped off the roof in the span of a single month. No note, no warning, just jumped. The place sat vacant for years after that until Miller's opened in the mid-90s. People swore the plaza was cursed. I didn't believe any of it. At least not until November 19th, 2024, the night everything changed. It was a Tuesday, cold, quiet, and bitter. The kind of night when the wind feels sharp against your cheeks and the sky turns black before you even clock in. Business was dead. Just one guy had come in around 9:30, ate his double cheeseburger in silence, and left. 2 DoorDash drivers grabbed pickups without saying more than order for Jackson and order for Kim. By 10:30, Luis's girlfriend had pulled up outside, headlights flashing. He shouted through the pass window, "Hey Danny, you got the clothes, yeah?" I sighed. "Yeah, man." "Go appreciate you, brother." He grinned, pulling off his gloves, "and see you tomorrow." And just like that, I was alone. I texted Erin, greater than me. "Come by?" "Bored as hell. Bring me a Snickers, Erin." "On my way." 15 minutes max. That was at 10:40. By 11:15, she still wasn't there. I wiped down the front counter, checked the drive-through screens, old grainy black and white cameras that barely worked. Usually I could at least spot headlights circling the lot. That night, nothing. And then, on camera 3, the one facing the lobby doors, I saw it. A shadow, tall, gliding past the glass. My first thought was Erin, trying to scare me. I ducked behind the counter, grinning despite the goosebumps prickling my arms. I waited for the door chime. Ding. The lobby door opened, closed, but no footsteps, no laughter, no Erin. I stayed crouched, heart pounding. 10 seconds, 15. Then I whispered, "Erin." Silence. I popped my head up. The lobby was empty. The parking lot beyond the glass stretched dark and still. No cars, no Erin. A chill ran through me. I stood slowly whispering, If this is a joke, it's not funny. I stepped into the hallway leading to the restrooms. Empty. And then, crash. A metallic bang from outside. I bolted for the side door, shoving it open into the night air. The dumpster sat 30 feet away. One of the side bins tipped over. A steel trash can dented inward like something had smashed it. It wasn't windy. "Daniel!" I spun, nearly stumbling. Erin was running toward me from the far end of the lot, her face pale, hair loose from her ponytail. She grabbed my arms, breathless. "Did you see it?" she gasped. "See what?" "Someone..." She pointed upward toward the roofline. "Someone jumped. From up there. Landed right by the dumpster. I swear to God, my stomach dropped." "No one's here, Erin. I've been out here. I saw it. A man, tall, he just dropped." Her voice cracked. I glanced at the dented trash can. My throat went dry. Let's go inside." We hurried back and I locked the doors. Erin grabbed a Sprite from the machine, her hands trembling. I thought Luis was still here. He left. Then, who the hell walked into the kitchen when we came in? "What?" "I saw it, Daniel. Someone in black, tall, just slipped into the kitchen like they belonged there." My chest tightened. "You're messing with me." She shook her head, wide-eyed. I swear we crept to the kitchen. The door swayed slightly on its hinges. The fryer hissed to life, oil bubbling violently. "I turned everything off," I whispered, rushing forward, pressing buttons. Nothing responded. Then, flicker. The lights cut out for half a second. In that split-second darkness, a tall silhouette filled the doorway, watching, motionless. When the light snapped back, it was gone. Erin grabbed my arm. "We're leaving." Now I fumbled the keys, dropped them twice. My hands shook so badly she snatched them, shoved me toward the exit. We sprinted to her car, slammed the doors. Inside, gasping, I turned my head toward Miller's and froze. In the upstairs window, faint but clear, a dark figure stood. Its eyes, two glowing white orbs, stared down at us. Neither of us spoke during the drive to my house. That night, Erin refused to leave my side. I slept in my clothes, pepper spray clutched in my hand, staring at the ceiling until morning. I didn't tell my manager the truth. I just said the fryer malfunctioned and I needed time off. He rolled his eyes and muttered about kids these days. But I couldn't let it go. I started digging. The old Plaza records confirmed what the rumors said. Back in 1987, the building had housed Ashwood Mutual Insurance. That fall, 3 employees had jumped from the roof, all in the span of 30 days. The office shut down the next year. For decades, people reported strange things: power outages, machines turning on by themselves, shadows moving where no one should be. Locals whispered the same thing. The dead relived their final moments again and again, searching for someone to notice. Erin never came back to Miller's after that night. I begged for day shifts. Sometimes I got them, sometimes not. And even now, months later, every time I drive past Pine Street Plaza, I can't help but glance toward that flickering red sign. And I swear, sometimes in the back booth where Erin and I used to sit, someone's already there, waiting, watching, and their eyes always glow white. I never thought much about late-night cravings. Living alone in a small one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Cleveland, I often found myself wandering down the dim streets in search of something greasy and cheap. Cooking after a 10-hour shift at the warehouse wasn't exactly my thing. McDonald's sat 3 blocks from my building, bright, greasy, and always open. It became my comfort spot. I wasn't new to the city, but I wasn't a local either. My name's Ethan Miller, 27, a guy who moved here from rural Ohio because I thought the city would offer more. More friends, more opportunities, maybe even more meaning. Instead, I got a low-paying job, an apartment with thin walls and a neighborhood where the sirens never stopped. Still, the Golden Arches offered something familiar. That night, it was a Friday, I'd just gotten off my shift. My body ached, sweat clung to my shirt, and my stomach growled like it hadn't been fed in days. I tossed my boots in the corner, changed into jeans and a hoodie, and grabbed my wallet. "I'll just grab a quarter-pounder and crash," I muttered to myself. The clock read 11:42 p.m. as I stepped outside. The street was quiet in that eerie way city streets get after midnight. Like all the noise just folds into itself. The street lamps flickered, their glow stretched thin across cracked sidewalks. My sneakers slapped against the pavement as I kept my hands in my pockets. Halfway down the block, I passed a guy leaning against a lamppost. He was tall, maybe early 30s, wearing a denim jacket that looked a size too big. He lit a cigarette and eyed me as I walked by. "Where you off to, buddy?" he asked, smoke curling from his lips. "McDonald's," I said quickly, not breaking stride. He chuckled. "Figures. Midnight McDonald's. Place for the lonely." I didn't answer. I just kept walking. His laugh echoed down the block behind me. By the time I reached McDonald's, the neon sign buzzed faintly, casting an unnatural red and yellow glow over the parking lot. A few cars were scattered around. The drive-thru was empty, and inside I could see maybe 4 or 5 people. A couple. A guy in a hoodie staring at his fries and an older man wiping down tables. I pushed open the glass door. The warmth of fryer oil and burnt coffee hit me like a wave. "Welcome to McDonald's," the cashier mumbled without looking up. Her name tag read Haley. She couldn't have been older than 19, dark hair tied back in a messy bun. She had that look of someone who stopped caring halfway through her shift. "Quarter-pounder meal, large Coke," I said. She punched it in. "That's $7.89. I tapped my card, grabbed the receipt, and moved aside. My eyes flicked around the restaurant. The couple argued quietly in a corner booth. The hooded guy kept glancing at the door. The older man, maybe the janitor, scrubbed the floor in slow, deliberate circles. Something about the air felt heavy, thicker than normal, like everyone was waiting for something. "Order 104, Haley called. I grabbed the bag and Coke, then slid into a booth near the window. I always liked sitting there, watching the world outside. Except tonight, the world outside wasn't comforting. The man with the denim jacket, the one I'd passed earlier, was across the street now, standing in the shadow of a boarded-up storefront. He wasn't smoking anymore, he was just staring. I unwrapped my burger, trying to ignore him. Maybe he lived around here, maybe I was paranoid. But then the hooded guy at the other booth stood up. He walked toward the trash bin, glanced at me, then at the window, and muttered something under his breath. I caught only one word. "Careful." I froze mid-bite. "Excuse me?" I asked. He shook his head, tossed his cup, and left without another word. The glass door shut behind him with a dull click. I set my burger down. My appetite disappeared. "Everything okay?" Haley asked from behind the counter. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Just long day." But she looked uneasy too, her eyes darting toward the window. 15 minutes passed. The couple left. The janitor disappeared into the back. I was the only customer left. That's when the front door opened again. 2 men walked in. They weren't locals. I could tell right away. Clean-shaven, dressed in dark jackets, stiff movements. Their eyes swept the place too carefully, lingering on me for a beat too long before approaching the counter. "Coffee," one of them said. "Black." Haley typed it in, her hand trembling slightly. The man paid cash, exact change. His friend didn't order anything. They sat 3 booths away, not speaking, just watching. I tried not to stare, but my heart thudded faster. Something was wrong. Everyone could feel it. Even Haley, who retreated to the back, leaving the front empty. I checked my phone. 12:17 a.m. Messages from my buddy Chris popped up. "You good? Still working late?" I typed back, "At McDonald's." Something feels off. Then the Wi-Fi cut out. My phone screen froze. When I glanced back up, the man from across the street, the one in the denim jacket, was inside now, leaning against the wall near the entrance. He hadn't ordered anything either. His eyes were locked on me. The silence was unbearable. Finally, I stood, grabbed my Coke, and headed for the door. "Night," I mumbled, not sure who I was even talking to. No one answered. The moment I stepped outside, the night swallowed me whole. The parking lot was too quiet, too empty. I could feel footsteps behind me, soft but deliberate. "Hey," a voice called. It was the man in the denim jacket. "You dropped something." I glanced back. He held nothing in his hands. "I didn't drop anything," I said. He smirked. "No, but you will." Then he started walking toward me. Panic clawed at my chest. I turned, moving fast, crossing the lot toward the side street. My sneakers slapped against the pavement. Behind me, more footsteps joined, the two men from the booth. "Ethan!" one of them called. My blood ran cold. I hadn't told them my name. I broke into a sprint. My Coke spilled across the asphalt. The alley beside McDonald's yawned open, dark and foul, with the stench of old grease and trash. I ducked into it, my breath ragged. "Stop running!" Denim Jacket shouted. I didn't. I kept running until the alley ended at a chain-link fence. My hands scrambled against the metal, climbing, cutting into my palms. Behind me, laughter echoed. "You can't hide forever," one of them said. I dropped down on the other side of the fence, knees buckling, lungs burning. I stumbled into the back street, the glow of neon behind me, the sound of footsteps still following. The days that followed weren't normal. Everywhere I went, work, home, even the corner store, I felt eyes on me. Sometimes I'd spot a man in a denim jacket at the end of my street. Sometimes it was one of the others pretending to scroll on their phone. I told Chris. He laughed it off. "Bro, you've been watching too many crime shows," he said. "Nobody's following you." But then one night he came with me to McDonald's, and he saw them too. We sat down with our trays, 2 Big Macs, fries, sodas. The place was half full this time. Families, kids, teenagers, normal. But in the far corner sat the same 2 men in dark jackets, silent, watching. Chris leaned in. "Okay, that's weird. I told you. They've been here before? Every night." We ate in silence, both of us pretending not to look. When we left, Chris muttered, "All right, I'll drive you home tonight." We crossed the lot. That's when Denim Jacket stepped out from behind a car. "Evening, gentlemen," he said smoothly. Chris froze. "You know him?" "No," I whispered. Denim Jacket smiled. "Not yet. The story doesn't end with a chase, or with me moving away. It ends with something worse. The knowledge that sometimes you're marked without knowing why. That your face, your name, even your habits become someone else's obsession. It's been months since that first night. I don't go to McDonald's anymore. I don't even leave my apartment after dark. But sometimes when the wind rattles the window or footsteps echo in the hall, I swear I hear a voice outside. You dropped something. And I know one day they'll be back. I never thought working at a McDonald's could change my life in the way it did. When people talk about jobs that scar you, they usually mean demanding bosses, endless hours, or rude customers. For me, it was something else entirely, something I can't even fully explain without feeling that same icy dread crawl up my spine. My name's Ethan Carter. I was 24 back then, living in a small industrial town in Ohio. Not the kind of place people dream about when they're kids. We had old factories, railroads, and one main highway that stretched across the town like a scar. After the pandemic, things got worse. Businesses closed, friends moved away, and the only places that seemed to keep running were the chain stores. I had dropped out of college during the pandemic. Money was tight, my dad's health was shaky, and I couldn't justify paying tuition for Zoom classes that felt more like a scam than an education. By the time I realized how far I'd fallen behind, it was too late to go back. So I stayed home, worked odd jobs, and eventually landed at McDonald's on Route 37, the one right off the interstate. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. The smell of fries and grease clung to me day and night. The beeping of fryers, the endless orders of Big Macs and nuggets. It became routine, almost comforting. My co-workers were the kind of people you'd expect. High school kids saving for college, single moms working double shifts, and drifters who just needed a paycheck. My closest co-worker was Mark Jensen, a tall, lanky guy with blonde hair always tucked under a greasy baseball cap. He was 26, loved metal bands I'd never heard of, and had this deadpan sense of humor that somehow made the long shifts bearable. He wasn't the type to talk much, but when he did, it usually made me laugh. Then there was Claire Reynolds, our shift manager. She was 31, sharp, and always exhausted. You could tell she'd been in fast food for too long. Still, she treated us fairly, which is more than I can say about most managers I'd had before. Most nights, the store was quiet after midnight. We'd get truckers rolling through for coffee, sometimes teenagers daring each other to order 10 McFlurries at once. But from midnight to 3 a.m., it was mostly dead. That's when we cleaned, mopped, restocked, and prayed time would move faster. It was one of those shifts, late October, cold fog hanging over the parking lot like a blanket, that everything started. I was wiping down the lobby tables around 12:45 a.m., earbuds in, listening to some old rock tracks. Out of habit, I kept glancing toward the big glass windows that faced the tree line beyond the drive-thru. The trees stood tall and black in the fog, their branches swaying gently in the night air. That's when I noticed it. Movement. Just a flicker, like someone crouching low between the pines. I pulled one earbud out, squinting. Nothing, just shadows. Still, a weird feeling crept over me, like when you know someone's watching you even if you can't see them. I shook it off and went back to spraying the windows. That's when I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Slow, deliberate, coming from the glass behind me. I froze, turned around. Nothing but my reflection and the black stretch of trees behind me. "Mark," I called, my voice a little too sharp. He leaned around the fryer, raising an eyebrow. "What?" "There's someone out there." He sighed, pulled off his gloves, and walked over. Together we peered through the glass. The parking lot lights buzzed overhead, but beyond that, just darkness. "You're seeing things again," he muttered. "Last week you thought a trash bag was a dog." "I know what I saw." Mark smirked but didn't argue. "Fine. If some creep's out there, they'll probably freeze their ass off. Come on, let's finish up." I tried, I really did, but the feeling never left. Every time I looked up, I half expected to see a face pressed against the glass. By 3 a.m., we were done. Mark and I clocked out together, Claire already long gone. The parking lot was empty except for our cars. His was near the front, mine, of course, was closer to the woods. "You want me to walk you out?" Mark asked, tugging his hoodie tighter. "Yeah, sure." We stepped into the cold, the sound of gravel crunching under our shoes. That's when he stopped. "Ethan," he whispered, "do you see that?" I followed his gaze. My stomach dropped. At the edge of the tree line stood a figure, tall, still, watching. "Oh my God," I muttered. The figure raised a hand slowly. A wave. Mark took a step forward, but I grabbed his arm. "Don't!" The figure stepped backward, vanishing into the trees. We didn't breathe until we were both in our cars. I slammed my door shut, fumbling with the keys. That's when it happened. Thump. Something heavy landed on my roof. The metal groaned under the weight. "Jesus Christ!" I shouted. Mark froze, staring at my car with wide eyes. "Ethan, get in!" I screamed, turning the ignition. The car rocked as whatever it was shifted on top. I slammed the gas, tires screeching against the pavement. I didn't stop until we were 10 miles down the highway, parked under the harsh lights of a gas station. We didn't speak for a long time, just sat there, shaking, trying to process. Finally, Mark whispered, "We need to check the cameras." The next day, we convinced Claire to pull up the security feed. She was reluctant, muttering about wasted time, but when she saw our faces, pale, serious, she agreed. From 12:30 to 3 a.m., we fast-forwarded. Nothing, just us cleaning, talking, walking out. "See?" Claire said. "Nothing." But then Mark pointed. "Wait. Stop." She paused the footage right as I was unlocking my car. In the corner of the frame, high in the trees, was a blur. Dark, unclear, but definitely there. And then, frame by frame, it moved. "Jesus Christ," Claire muttered. My throat went dry. "What the hell is that?" No one answered. Later, when I walked out to my car, I noticed something I hadn't before. 4 long scratches across the roof, uneven and jagged like claws. And wedged into the window frame was a scrap of paper smudged with mud. It said 2 words. "We watching." I should have quit right then, but I didn't. Rent needed paying and jobs were scarce. Mark stayed too, though neither of us ever worked a night shift without unease. Things got worse. Customers reported strange noises in the parking lot. One trucker swore he saw someone crawling on all 4s across the asphalt. A teenage girl came in crying, saying something followed her car after she went through the drive-thru. Inside, the lights flickered more often. We heard tapping on windows when no one was there. Sometimes, in the reflection of the glass, I swore I saw shapes moving just behind me. One night, around 1 a.m., Claire found muddy footprints in the stockroom, human-sized but barefoot. They led in from the back door, then stopped. She locked up every entrance twice after that, but the worst night came a week before I finally quit. It was me, Mark, and a new hire, Sophie, a quiet college dropout who barely spoke above a whisper. The 3 of us were on closing. Around 2:30, I stepped out to take trash to the dumpster. The fog was thick, swallowing the parking lot whole. As I lifted the lid, I froze. Something was crouched behind the dumpster, not an animal, not a person. It was tall, folded unnaturally low, limbs too long, head cocked at a wrong angle, and it was smiling. I dropped the trash bag and bolted back inside. My chest heaved as I slammed the door shut. Mark and Sophie rushed over. "What happened?" There's something out there," I stammered. Mark grabbed a flashlight. "Show me." "Are you insane?" I hissed, but he went anyway. I followed, heart pounding. Sophie stayed near the door, pale and shaking. We reached the dumpster, empty, nothing but fog. "See?" Mark muttered. "You're losing it, man." Then we heard it. Tap, 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 on the roof of the building. We looked up. Something crawled across the roofline, its silhouette sharp against the fog. Long arms, bent legs, moving too fast. Mark's flashlight beam caught it for half a second. Pale skin stretched tight, a face with no eyes. It shrieked. We ran. Sophie was screaming by the time we made it back inside. We locked every door, every window, but the sound didn't stop. The scratching, the pounding, the tapping from every side of the building. Finally, silence. We huddled in the lobby, lights buzzing overhead, each of us too scared to speak. That's when the drive-thru headset crackled to life. A voice, low, broken. "Ethan!" I ripped the headset off and threw it across the room. When the morning crew arrived, we didn't wait. We left. None of us spoke of it again. I quit that week. Told Claire it wasn't worth the extra $1 an hour. Mark left a month later. Sophie lasted 2 weeks before she stopped showing up entirely. Sometimes I drive past that McDonald's, and every time I feel that same dread. The trees still stand tall and dark behind it. The parking lot lights still buzz. Customers still line up at the drive-thru like nothing ever happened. But I know better, because when I close my eyes at night, I still hear it. Tap, tap, tap. And I know it's waiting. I used to think the worst thing about working the night shift at McDonald's was the boredom. Not the grease that coated your skin, not the cheap polyester uniform that never fit right, not even the smell, though God knows that smell could stick to you like a curse. It was that strange combination of fryer oil, burnt patties, sour pickles, and mop water that clung to your hair long after you'd showered. People think you get used to it, but you don't. It just becomes a part of you, like a ghost you drag home every morning. But boredom, that's what I thought would kill me. Endless hours staring at a dead parking lot, waiting for headlights that rarely came. Fighting sleep with bitter coffee from the same machine that hissed like it resented being alive. I'd take that boredom back in a heartbeat now. I'd welcome it with open arms. Because what happened during my last shift at the McDonald's off Highway 37 in Briar Falls, Ohio, that's the kind of night that doesn't leave you. It stains you. My name's Lena Carson, 24 years old, born and raised in a town nobody's heard of unless their car broke down nearby. I'd done a year of community college before money ran out and bills piled up. My dad had left when I was 16. My mom worked at a sewing factory until it closed, and after that, well, we just scraped by. McDonald's wasn't supposed to be forever, just something to keep the lights on while I figured life out. But like a lot of people who say that, I woke up 2 years later still clocking in, still flipping burgers and taking orders. Nights were the only shifts that fit my life. They paid $1 more per hour, and that extra $60 a week meant rent was paid on time. Besides, I thought nights would be easier. No managers breathing down your neck, fewer customers, less chaos. Just keep the place clean, take the occasional drive-through order, and wait for the sun to come back. But nights had their own kind of chaos. You get the drunks, the addicts, the people who wander in from God knows where. You get loners who sit in the parking lot for hours, headlights off, watching. And sometimes you get the ones who come back, again and again, the kind who remember your name even if you never told them. There were usually 3 of us on nights. Me, the unofficial leader because I'd been there longest. Derek, 19, skinny as a broomstick and always bouncing his leg like he was trying to run away without moving. He had a sharp laugh, the kind that grated on you after a while, but he meant well. Maya, 16, shy, soft-spoken, still in high school. She worked part-time because her mom insisted she learn responsibility. Sweet kid, but not someone you wanted around in an emergency. Our general manager, Paula, never worked nights. She'd just leave a list of chores taped to the walk-in cooler and disappear until morning. If the fryer broke or the register glitched, we were on our own. That last shift started like any other. Tuesday night, mid-October, the kind of damp chill that seeps into your bones. I clocked in at 10:58 p.m., hair still damp from a rushed shower, and found Derek slouched by the fryer, scrolling on his phone. "Anything exciting yet?" I asked, tying my apron. "Yeah," he snorted. "I got a dude who ordered a filet-o-fish with no fish. Just bun, cheese, tartar. Said he was on a diet." I rolled my eyes. "And you made it?" "Hell no." I told him we were out of fish. He peeled out like I ruined his life. Maya was wiping down the front counter, earbuds dangling from her hoodie. She gave me a small wave but didn't say much. That was normal for her. The first couple hours were dead. A few cars through the drive-thru, mostly late-night truckers grabbing black coffee and hash browns. One guy tried to pay with a Canadian 20, which Derek accepted before realizing we couldn't use it in the till. I swapped it out of my own wallet. Wasn't worth the argument. At midnight, the store went quiet. No cars, no noise except the hum of the freezer and the buzz of fluorescent lights overhead. That's when I started to feel it, the wrongness. It was 12:47 a.m. when I heard the squeal of tires turning into the lot. Headlights washed across the windows. "Showtime," Derek muttered, pulling on his headset. The voice crackled through a second later, male, low, too cheerful for the hour. "Yeah, give me a large Coke, and..." There was a pause, and maybe a smile from the girl taking my order. I froze. My headset wasn't even on. That meant he could only see us. "Don't," I whispered to Derek. "Don't answer." But he already had. Large Coke, sure. Anything else?" The car rolled forward. A white sedan, older model, rust creeping up the sides. The driver leaned out when he reached the window. I knew him. Ethan Harlow. Not a friend, not even really an acquaintance. Just a face I'd seen too many times in the wrong places. He used to come in around 1 in the morning, always ordering something bizarre. 10 McChickens, plain cheeseburgers with no buns, fries with no salt but extra touching, whatever that meant. And always, he lingered at the window. Staring, smiling too wide, asking questions that dug under your skin. "You shouldn't be here," I told him once months ago. "This isn't the place to hang out." He just grinned. I liked the view. That night, his eyes locked on me before the car even stopped moving. "There she is," he said like we were old friends. "Told you I'd come back." "Your total's $1.79, Derek said quickly, leaning halfway out the window to block his view of me. but Ethan just leaned farther, peering past him. "Don't be rude." "Say hi, Lena." My chest went cold. I hadn't given him my name. I stepped back, shaking my head at Derek to just take the money and close the window. He tried, but Ethan held the cup out of reach, smiling like it was a game. "You look tired tonight," he said softly. "Long shift?" "Sir, please hand me the cash," Derek muttered. Ethan ignored him. His eyes stayed on me. "You should let me take you home when you're done. I see your car out back all the time. The little blue Honda, right? Cute." My stomach turned. He'd been watching. I forced my voice steady. "You need to leave." That smile vanished like a mask slipping. For a second, the real face showed. Flat, angry, hollow. Then he laughed, tossed 2 crumpled dollars through the window and grabbed his Coke like nothing happened. "See you soon," he said and drove off. The lot went dark again. For half an hour we tried to pretend it was over. Derek cracked dumb jokes. Maya scrubbed trays like her life depended on it. I paced, checking locks twice, 3 times. At 1:30 a.m., the front door chime went off. I dropped the mop. We hadn't unlocked the lobby since 10 p.m. The doors were bolted. "Tell me you locked it," I whispered to Maya. I thought you did," she stammered. My heart hammered as I moved toward the counter, and there he was, Ethan, inside. He stood just past the soda fountain, Coke cup still in hand, the other jammed deep into his hoodie pocket. "You weren't very nice to me," he said, voice calm, almost disappointed. "I don't like being ignored." "How the hell did you—" Derek started, but Ethan cut him off. "Doesn't matter. What matters is you apologize." His eyes snapped back to me. "Say you're sorry. Say you were wrong to treat me like trash. Do that and maybe we'll all walk out smiling." Something in his tone made my blood run cold. The hand in his pocket clenched, the fabric stretching. Gun or knife, I didn't know, and I didn't want to find out. "Okay," I said carefully, "let's not do anything stupid." Just take a breath," Maya whimpered behind me. Derek grabbed her wrist and tugged her back toward the kitchen. Ethan noticed. "Stay where you are," he barked, sudden and sharp. His eyes were wild now, teeth bared. "Nobody moves until she apologizes." I swallowed hard. My mouth was dry as sand. "Ethan," I said, forcing calm, "I'm sorry you feel disrespected. But you can't be here. You need to leave or—" "Not good enough," he roared, slamming his cup on the counter so hard Coke splattered everywhere. "Say it like you mean it. Tell me you were wrong to reject me." Something snapped in me then. Fear twisted into anger. "No," I said. My voice shook, but the word rang out. "You're a creep, a pathetic stalker who scares 16-year-old kids for fun. You don't deserve an apology. You deserve to be in jail." His face went red. "Bitch!" he spat, lunging forward. I slammed the lobby door lock just as he reached it. He rammed into the glass, pounding with his fist, the other still buried in that pocket. The whole frame rattled. "Open it!" he screamed. "Open it, or I swear!" But I was already running. Derek dragged Maya through the kitchen, shoving her behind the fryers. I sprinted to the back hallway where a side door connected to the gas station next door. The clerk that night was Reggie, a 6'4" ex-bouncer built like a tank. I pounded on the shared door until he opened it. One look at my face and he knew. "Lock it down," he said, yanking me inside. He pulled the gate across the gas station entrance just as Ethan's fist slammed against the door behind me. For 10 agonizing minutes, Ethan screamed and pounded, his voice hoarse, his rage echoing through the walls. Then silence. Police showed up 20 minutes later. By then he was gone. They found tire tracks in the dirt lot, but nothing else. I didn't go back the next night, or the night after. Paula left me 3 voicemails about abandoning my responsibilities, but I deleted them all. A week later, police found Ethan hiding in an abandoned house 2 towns over. He had priors, trespassing, stalking, harassment. Nothing had ever stuck before. This time it did. I quit McDonald's for good, didn't even pick up my last paycheck. Some things aren't worth the money. Even now, years later, I still dream about that night. About the way his eyes looked when the smile finally dropped. About the sound of fists on glass. I used to think boredom was the worst part of working nights. Now I know better. The worst part is realizing how thin the glass is between you and the monsters.